It's been a few days since the embargo lifted for the Assassin's Creed Shadows preview, and since then I've been reflecting on my experience, the way I felt about the game, and the key takeaways that I had from the 4 short hours that I got with this game. Like most of you, I also spent the entire day that the embargo lifted watching every video I could from creators who'd also been invited to the previews, and many people have been invited to these previews, so I spent hours just drinking up as much of the content as I could to get information and other people's opinions on Assassin's Creed Shadows. I loved hearing their thoughts, their impressions, and figuring out what it was that they got most excited about and what they didn't like as much, and I wanted to compare that to how I felt. During this binge session, I noticed getting more and more excited about one specific thing in this game, and that is Naoe. This feeling came mostly from listening to other people in the community like Leo K and watching some stealth gameplay from channels like Treviso. These creators have very similar tastes to mine in terms of what they want from an Assassin's Creed game, and their opinions led me to reflect further on the experience that I had, and how I truly feel like I didn't get enough time to play as Naoe and learn the stealth system. I honestly find myself missing her. I find myself wanting to understand the stealth mechanics better, to engage with the world and challenge myself, and to see Japan through her eyes. It's something that I didn't think was going to happen when I walked away from the preview, but I really do believe I didn't get enough time. I find myself yearning to go back and play some more Shadows, and particularly playing and spending more time as Naoe. Because I can't play the game until it releases in March, I wanted to share my thoughts publicly about her and see if the hunch that I have about this character is shared with anyone else, to see if anyone else feels this way, and if all these feelings that I have about her will end up being correct upon release and we have 60 to 100 hours with her. I really like Naoe, like everything about her I like. I like what she represents and who she is, and it was something that I didn't fully appreciate during my playtime, since I was feeling anxious of getting to play and discover as much as possible. Again, I don't think 4 hours was enough, and during the playthrough, now that I reflect on it, I feel like I was rushing through a lot of things that I should have taken my time with to really let them sink in, and a lot of my time with Naoe exploring the stealth has fallen victim to that kind of 4-hour time frame. The way that she carried herself, the weapons she uses, her outfits, animations, general demeanor, everything gives me a good feeling about living this assassin shinobi fantasy in AC Shadows and doing it right with her. The first reason I'm excited to spend more time as Naoe is because she is the obvious stealth favorite character, and having reflected about my time playing the preview, I really want to go back, and I'm very excited to go back to the game and get more familiar with the stealth systems. The stealth in this game, as Leo K, and all credit to him, rightfully pointed out, can be much more challenging than it has been in the past, and this is something that I didn't truly appreciate because I didn't get to explore stealth in its full depth. I did notice that the game requires you to act much more like an assassin if you want to be successful. Rather than just being able to rush it and kill everyone, you have to observe your surroundings, you have to take note of guards, possible weak points in an enemy fortress, and then slowly and strategically infiltrate the fortress. It seems like you can quite easily ghost the game, or at least ghost a large section of the game and be pretty non-lethal, being a silent shadow that is never noticed nor kills anyone. And you don't really have to go out of your way to massacre an entire restricted area in order to accomplish your objective. In that sense, now it feels like one of the more real protagonists when it comes to her relationship with violence. Obviously, this is a very violent game, and this time period is extremely deadly, and Naoe is no exception to that. But the fact that the game doesn't lend itself to mindlessly killing guards when you enter stealth gives it a much more immersive touch, in my opinion, especially when it's supported by so many other systems that are linked to not being detected rather than killing people. And this is a distinction that only upon reflection I've started to figure out gets me very excited. For example, the shadows mechanic, in which you can extinguish lights to envelop yourself in darkness and avoid detection, is something that once again gives that strategic shinobi feel to Naoe's approach to infiltration, and that's something that I want to explore more and more until it becomes second nature in my gameplay. The importance of sound as well in this game also furthers that same feeling of avoiding detection versus killing guards in terms of the priority of stealth. It kind of promotes this idea that you want to go slowly, paying attention to your environment and figuring out how to avoid detection first, and as an optional secondary step, take out enemies. The level design also facilitates this in a way that feels pretty natural. One thing that I don't like about the level design that I mentioned, and I still stand by this, is that it doesn't lend itself to very good parkour or self-expression through movement, but the level design does allow for a lot of self-discovery and self-expression through stealth. Many of the different approaches Naoe can take while being stealthy feels like her adapting to the environment rather than the obvious video game path that's been predetermined for you. Like when you enter an area, you actually have to look around and decide what opportunities you can exploit. You can go prone to sneak through small cracks under the floors of buildings, or use your rope to ascend surfaces you otherwise wouldn't have been able to climb. It really feels like this is a stealth system that wants you to think before you act, to take your time and ask a question I have honestly never really asked myself when playing AC for the first time, which is, does this person really need to die? The answer for most people is going to be yes, and that's fine. It's probably going to be yes for me as well for the most part. But in this game, with how many ways you have to negate lines of sight and reduce the power of your enemies, sometimes going out of your way to mindlessly kill someone is not worth it, or it can even be outright counterproductive. And this is honestly the first time I felt this way when I'm playing a game for the first time. Usually my non-lethal approach is kind of reserved for the second or third playthrough, but this time it feels so ingrained into the level design and the way that Naoe acts that it just feels so real. And it's the first time I felt this way about an assassin, that I have to attribute this feeling to Naoe herself as a character. And I find that very alluring. This is why I've spent a lot of time thinking about her as a character since my preview. She seems to be, from like a purely mechanical perspective, a very complex character that has more depth and three-dimensionality as an assassin protagonist than most of the modern era. Again, here I'm only talking about the way we can explore her character and express ourselves during gameplay, especially during stealth gameplay. The narrative is another topic that I don't have much insight on at the moment, though I will say that this is the part that I'm not fully enamored with her yet, because her English voice actor isn't, in my opinion, all that great.
I am Naoe. I didn't expect Yasuke and me to be granted a social call from Lord Kuroda Kanbei.
The line delivery and facial animation does leave a lot to be desired, and that would usually be a barrier to me connecting fully with a character. 100% of the time it is. It's something that's happened to me in Odyssey, for example, where when I controlled Cassandra and made choices as the player, I felt like she was this cool Greek proto-assassin type character, and I really liked it, but then every time a scripted moment would happen, it would just completely shatter that fantasy. The reason I don't have that problem here is because, first of all, Naoe at least does have the personality of a shinobi, and she is, in my opinion, pretty charismatic. She's very clearly kind and empathetic, and she embodies the kind of character that I've always envisioned myself playing as in an AC Japan game. I already mentioned this in my impression video, but I've seen other people talk about it as well. Naoe plays and feels like Xiao Jun would if she ever got a fully fledged title entry, and that statement alone makes me want to spend hours exploring the open world with her. And going back to the voice acting issue, I think I'm going to play the game in the immersive mode, which, if you don't remember, is basically when all the characters speak their native languages, and it seems like the Japanese voice actor for Naoe is so much higher. From what I've heard in other people's videos, the quality and personality of these voices in the Japanese dub is much higher in quality than the English ones. And I can already tell that the immersion factor is going to be much stronger when I make that change. Another thing that I really like about Naoe is the work the team has done on her outfits. This is something small, but I think characterizes your protagonist a lot and is a very important part of the assassin fantasy. All of her outfits fit her very well and fall in line with traditional trends of assassin fashion. This time around, they've also fixed the cloth physics, which is a small but really impactful issue when you're playing a game like this. So once again, during gameplay, many things will be fueling this new assassin fantasy that balances that kind of approach to infiltration. It feels different. It's one that you overall have to work a bit more for, but will reward you for doing it. We're going to spend probably the next 2 years or so pretty much getting to play as her and knowing this assassin character inside and out. And I'm happy that instead of dread or even indifference to the prospect of spending 2 years with Naoe, I already find myself wanting to return and play as her and live out this assassin fantasy. I think the stealth system leaves so much to be explored. I think this character leaves so much role-playing to be done. And I just wanted to jump on here and share that with those who haven't been able to play yet, because this is kind of a reflection that I have, having played for 4 hours, figuring out that 4 hours was not enough, and now that I can't play it, finding myself wanting to play specifically as Naoe. I think that's a very good sign. I think that the stealth system is going to be one that impresses a lot of people, including me. And yeah, I just wanted to jump on here and talk about that, because I do hope that you're going to have the same feeling as I did when you play the game. What I would tell you before you jump into AC Shadows is to approach stealth with very little anxiety and haste. That's a mistake I made when doing the preview just because of the time limit, but you should be taking your time to be methodical, figure out in each mission what you're trying to accomplish, because it won't always be to kill everyone. And once you know what you want to accomplish, try and figure out a strategy that will allow you to get that done silently. It's very refreshing for the most efficient method to not always be kill everyone you see. If you want to see my overall thoughts on the entire Assassin's Creed Shadows preview, you can watch this video now.